Long Day's Journey into Night is a play by Eugene O'Neil. The setting of the play is living room of the Tyrone's summer home in 1912 during the span of a single day, morning, afternoon, evening, and midnight. Depicting American realism, the autobiographical play was published in 1956 posthumously by O'Neill's wife. O'Neil had survived consumption, while his father and brother were alcoholics and his mother suffered from morphine addiction. Before we start, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. The play begins with James Tyrone, a once thriving actor, who has been married to Mary for 35 years. Mary coped with morphine addiction stemming from the birth of their youngest son. Living with them are their sons Jamie and Edmund. Jamie is a 33-year-old hard-drinking pessimist with a strained relationship with his father as he lacks his father's vitality while the signs of premature disintegration are on him. Edmund is 10 years younger than Jamie and is a journalist who returns home, sick, allegedly with a summer cold, but perhaps suffering from consumption or tuberculosis. While Tyrone disapproves of his son's political and literary preferences, the family is fraught with tensions. Tyrone is criticized for his frugality, and Jamie for his alcoholism. Mary, recently back from treatment at a sanatorium, exhibits a worrying demeanor related to her concern for Edmund, reminiscent of past signs of drug abuse. In private, Jamie confides in Tyrone, expressing worries about Edmund's health and implicating Tyrone's previous choice of a cheap quack instead of a real doctor, leading to Mary's addiction. Mary, defensive about Edmund's condition, clashes with Jamie while Tyrone works in the yard as Edmund enters. Mary anxiously tends to him, expressing loneliness but deflecting when he suggests her issues contribute to their isolation. She blames her husband for never providing a permanent home while the boys were growing up as they had to travel constantly for his acting shows. She retreats upstairs, seemingly for a nap, leaving a tense atmosphere in the household. Just before lunchtime, Edmund is engrossed in a book while Kathleen, the servant, brings drinks to the room. Edmund has a drink before Jamie enters and discreetly takes a drink before Tyrone joins them. Concerned about Mary's actions upstairs, both Edmund and Jamie share their worries. Mary enters, displaying affection but behaving strangely, confirming Jamie's suspicions. Although Edmund initially overlooks it, Mary's peculiar comments and detached demeanor raise his suspicions too. Jamie confronts Mary, who denies any issue. Edmund defends his mother and urges reassurance, but Mary is unable to provide it. As Tyrone approaches, Mary heads to the kitchen, leaving the boys to argue with their father about drinking. Tyrone, sensing their unhappiness, blames Jamie. Mary reappears, and Tyrone witnesses her distressed state. Agitatedly chattering and avoiding eye contact, Mary's condition becomes evident to Tyrone, who expresses regret for being a fool to believe in her. Mary, in turn, accuses Tyrone of excessive drinking but pleads for understanding, citing her worry for Edmund that she tried so hard. Despite her excuse, Tyrone remains unconvinced, and they proceed to have lunch amid the tense atmosphere. Throughout lunch, Mary speaks in a detached manner, repeatedly blaming James for not providing her with a proper home. She characterizes him as a wealthy miser, fearing destitution despite his riches. The telephone rings, and James answers, expecting news about Edmund from Dr. Hardy. Upon his return, James cryptically mentions Hardy's desire to see Edmund that afternoon. Mary, hinting at her intention to take more morphine, announces her need to go upstairs. In her absence, Edmund attempts to convince his father and brother not to give up on Mary, but they believe intervening is futile once she has relapsed. Undiscouraged, Edmund goes upstairs to talk with her. James then reveals to Jamie that Edmund indeed has consumption, urging him to accompany Edmund to the doctor without succumbing to alcohol. When Mary reappears, more detached than before, Jamie leaves, and James encourages her to leave the house, but she refuses. As Edmund comes downstairs, James gives him money, warning against sharing it with Jamie. Before leaving, he pleads with Mary to stop taking morphine, but she feigns ignorance. Defeated, Edmund leaves, leaving Mary alone. During dinner, the men are absent, and Mary invites the servant, Kathleen, to join her for a drink. Although Kathleen is pleasant, Mary remains absorbed in her own thoughts and is oblivious to her companion. Kathleen recounts a troubling experience at the drugstore while fetching a prescription for Mary, where she faced suspicion until her connection to the family became known. Uninterested or unable to comprehend Kathleen's concerns, Mary burrows into her past, reminiscing about her convent education, initial aspirations to become a nun or a concert pianist. and the story of meeting Tyrone. As Kathleen leaves to assist with dinner, Mary attempts to pray without success. With the return of Edmund and Tyrone, both hiding their drinking well, they observe Mary's deteriorating state. Mary enthusiastically discusses the boys' childhoods, mentioning their deceased 2-year-old brother Eugene, but her tales fluctuate between nostalgia and blaming those around her. Mary is immersed in memories of her indulgent father and her wedding, wondering the whereabouts of her wedding dress. When challenged by Edmund, she angrily blames him for her addiction, which originated from medication prescribed after his difficult birth. Edmund tries to share his diagnosis, but Mary refuses to listen, prompting him to leave the house. Mary then breaks down in tears, expressing fear for Edmund's health and believing he is ashamed of her. Tyrone urges her to eat, but she heads upstairs, probably to take more drugs, leaving Tyrone alone and despondent. Tyrone engages in a game of cards while drinking when the inebriated Edmund returns home. Their conversation revolves around their contrasting literary preferences and Mary. Tyrone insists that many of Mary's stories about her past are divorced from reality, but Edmund, inclined to trust his mother's version, remains unconvinced. Both father and son avoid going upstairs while Mary is awake, opting instead to play cards and share anecdotes. Tyrone opens up about his childhood and acting career, lamenting a missed opportunity for greatness. Jamie, returning from the town brothel inebriated, provokes tension, leading Tyrone to leave to prevent a confrontation. Despite Jamie insulting their father, Edmund wants to give Tyrone the benefit of the doubt. In a heated moment, Jamie's derision of Mary prompts Edmund to strike him. Tearfully, Jamie admits losing hope in Mary's recovery and expresses concern for Edmund while cautioning him against self-destructive tendencies. Despite occasional jealousy and misguided advice, Jamie professes love for his younger brother. After a confrontation with Tyrone, Jamie and Tyrone eventually doze off. However, the sound of someone playing the piano startles them awake and sober. Mary enters, clutching her wedding dress, oblivious to the men. In a delusional state, she believes herself to be a convent girl and muses about her dream of becoming a nun. Edmund's attempt to convey his diagnosis falls on deaf ears as Mary remains immersed in her memories. She recounts the joy of marrying Tyrone and was so happy for a time. The play concludes with Tyrone stirring in his chair, while Jamie and Edmund remain motionless. Now we will analyze Long Day's journey into night for important themes. The family in Long Day's journey into night struggles to disentangle itself from the past, with Mary's fixation on nostalgia serving as a means to escape her dreary and miserable present reality. However, her drugged musings only intensify her sense of having chosen the wrong path in life. Warmly reminiscing about her days as a girl in a convent, where she aspired to be a nun or a concert pianist, Mary contrasts her current life with a distorted, idealized version of her past. Similarly, James romanticizes his past as a successful actor, acknowledging that he pursued commercial success at the expense of artistic passion. Both Mary and James struggle with regret, yearning to turn back time and alter the course of their lives. Mary, in a disturbed, inebriated fantasy, attempts to relive her girlhood in the convent, emphasizing the futility of dwelling on the past, as she states, "How can I? The past is the present, isn't it? It's the future, too. We all try to lie out of that, but life won't let us." The play highlights the family's entrapment in old hurts, repeating arguments, and an inability to let go. Mary's belief that the past dictates the present and future contributes to her persistent fixation on it. Despite James's advice to forget the past, Mary perceives herself as locked into a predetermined existence shaped by past mistakes. Her nostalgia transforms into regret as she mourns the loss of her previous life, especially before meeting James, when she was an innocent girl in a convent with aspirations to become a nun. James, too, falls prey to nostalgia, glorifying the high points of his acting career despite the associated regrets. The play ends with Mary attempting to reenact her past by holding her wedding dress and expressing a desire to become a nun. This poignant scene symbolizes the family's tragic obsession with their personal histories, futilely reliving long-gone experiences. O'Neil emphasizes the uselessness of pandering to past wistfulness, advocating for the importance of moving forward to lessen regret. Mary's reliance on morphine becomes a form of denial, shielding her from the physical and emotional pains of life. As an addict, Mary's denial is unsurprising, denying her addiction and distorting certain events from her past. Her idealized memories serve as another layer of denial, reassuring herself that life was once easy and joyful, dismissing the current horrors as peculiarities. Tyrone, Jamie, and Edmund are also in denial about Mary's condition, believing she can overcome her addiction despite its powerful grip. Jamie breaks down on stage, having denied the evident signs and holding on to hope that Mary could conquer her addiction. Tyrone, too, lives in denial, insisting Mary is well and dismissing concerns raised by Jamie. He neglects the true cause of his financial troubles, attributing it to imagined frugality. The ultimate denial occurs in the final act when Edmund highlights the subjectivity of truth, asserting that belief determines truth. Facts don't mean a thing, do they? What you want to believe, that's the only truth. O'Neil portrays how individuals strive to avoid confronting guilt. Mary attempts to divert attention from her morphine habit by vehemently denying any relapse, accusing her family of distrust when they express concern. However, her denials fail, leading to relapses where she shifts blame onto her family, avoiding responsibility. Mary manipulates her family's trust, using blame as a tool to deflect suspicion and continue her destructive behavior. Edmund, aware of his mother's concern for his illness, seeks assurance that she won't turn to drugs if he's seriously diagnosed. Despite her promise, Mary's bitter remark about past promises reveals the success of her guilt-tripping tactics. When Mary decides to inject morphine, Edmund's momentary suspicion is replaced by shame, allowing her the opportunity to relapse. As Mary becomes less subtle in blaming her loved ones, she accuses James Tyrone of influencing Jamie's alcoholism. You brought him up to be a boozer. Since he first opened his eyes, he's seen you drinking. She attributes the death of her second child to Jamie, insinuating malicious intent. Mary further suggests that her addiction could have been avoided if Tyrone had chosen a more expensive, real doctor. Her determination to evade responsibility highlights the tragic impact of denial and blame on personal relationships. When you have the poison in you, you want to blame everyone but yourself. Despite the family's collective denial of their vices, Mary's manipulative use of denial and blame emerges as the most devastating, corroding the bonds within the Tyrone family. Forgiveness emerges as a central theme in the play, portraying the Tyrones as a deeply flawed yet resilient family. Edmund, despite the family's troubled history, manages to reconcile with his past and pursue a promising career. His ability for forgiveness plays a significant role in this transformation. While the Tyrones struggle with jealousy and hatred, their familial bonds endure, marked by love and dysfunction. Despite their communication challenges and frequent conflicts, the Tyrones consistently seek reconciliation. O'Neil highlights the family's dysfunction, suggesting that familial bonds can survive even the most toxic situations. The Tyrone family's resilience, however, remains ambiguous in terms of its impact on their overall well-being. Intense arguments, often fueled by alcohol, are a recurring theme, but the family members adeptly navigate them, showcasing their ability to forgive and move forward. Even in moments of heated confrontation, apologies and genuine forgiveness prevail, emphasizing the enduring strength of their familial ties. Despite their efforts to avoid conflicts, the Tyrones find themselves drawn into arguments, revealing the inevitability of familial strife. Beneath their animosity lies a powerful undercurrent of love and appreciation, evident in their ability to forgive after intense fights. When Jamie insults their mother, Edmund punches him and eventually both brothers reconcile with each other. For a second Jamie reacts pugnaciously and half rises from his chair to do battle, but suddenly he seems to sober up to a shocked realization of what he has said and he sinks back limply. Jamie's thanks, kid. I certainly had that coming. Don't know what made me, booze talking, you know me, kid, to which Edmund replies. I know you'd never say that unless, but God, Jamie, no matter how drunk you are, it's no excuse, and I'm sorry I hit you. The family's enduring affection is exemplified in tender moments of reconciliation, demonstrating their unwavering love for each other despite the pervasive tension. This love, while admirable, also serves as a double-edged sword, trapping them in a cycle of dysfunction. The two most important symbols of Long Day's Journey into Night are the fog and Mary's wedding dress. The fog in Long Day's Journey into Night serves as a symbol representing denial and reflects Mary's mental state when under the influence of the morphine she is addicted to. In Act 1, Mary expresses dissatisfaction with the fog, revealing her fear of relapsing into morphine use. Initially predicted by Tyrone to be gone for good, the return of the fog parallels the resurgence of Mary's addiction. As the play progresses, Mary, who has been secretly taking morphine, professes love for the fog. Edmund also finds solace in the fog, viewing it as a realm where truth is untrue, and life can hide from itself, representing his denial of fears about a serious illness. The term fog is used by both Jamie and Edmund to describe Mary's addiction. Throughout Long Day's journey into night, the fog both distresses and comforts Mary, portraying it as a force bringing detachment and loneliness. While Mary initially dislikes the thick fog, associating it with the disturbing foghorn, it's the foghorn I hate. It won't let you alone. It keeps reminding you, and warning you, and calling you back. She later reveals that the fog itself doesn't bother her. Instead, she despises the reminder from the foghorn, which disrupts her desire to immerse herself in the solitude of the fog. The fog becomes a metaphor for the barriers between people, appealing to Mary as a means to isolate herself from her present reality and indulge her drug addiction away from the judgment of her frustrated family. Mary's wedding dress serves as a poignant symbol of her unrealized hopes for the future. In Act 3, she recounts the meticulous effort she invested in choosing the dress and adorning herself for her wedding, highlighting the significance of the dreams associated with her marriage. However, her admission that she no longer knows the dress's whereabouts signifies the loss of those dreams over time. In the final act, when Mary reappears carrying the dress, she seems disconnected from its meaning, and Tyrone gently takes it from her with an unconscious clumsy, protective gentleness. Tyrone is the sole remaining individual who recalls Mary in the dress and the hopeful aspirations they once shared for their marriage. Mary's last line emphasizes the transient happiness she experienced when falling in love with Tyrone. The dress, once a symbol of that joy, now stands unkempt and overlooked. Mary's intense desire for the dress becomes a desperate attempt to reconnect with her past. In a drug-addled reminiscence about her wedding, she nostalgically recalls her meticulous gown selection, lamenting that it was never quite good enough. Expressing both affection and sorrow for the dress, she wonders about its current location, admitting that revisiting it used to evoke tears. Where is it now, I wonder? I used to take it out from time to time when I was lonely, but it always made me cry. The dress becomes laden with meaning, symbolizing Mary's inability to relive her romanticized past as a means of escaping her miserable present. In the final scene, as she holds the dress, Mary focuses not on the garment itself but on her life as a young girl in the convent, indicating that finding the gown has failed to revive her past. Consequently, the dress becomes an emotional symbol of the futility of idealizing and attempting to relive the romanticized past. Hope you like, share, and subscribe for more.